What's up, world? Welcome back to a very special episode of the MITM podcast where we unlock success daily by journeying through the 6 pillars. I'm your host, Ty Aarons, and today we're venturing into a vital aspect of our financial well-being, the money at work system and how I learned about it. And with that being said, run the intro.
Caught up in them bright lights, lusting for shiny things that's golden. Everything ain't always what it seems, that it's soaking. Chasing my dreams, coming apart at my seams. Best believe that the money is the motive.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of the MITM podcast. And today is the first installment of a 3-part series introducing us to the money at work system. First, let's start off with a question. When money comes into your life, what happens? Do you spend it? Do you save it? Or do you give it away? Typically, the way people handle money is they'll either spend it and they'll go into debt spending it. They'll spend more money than they have. Some other people, they save it and they save and save and they think they're doing, but they save it just to spend it again. Okay, they stack up all this cash and they drain it all. Okay, hey, some people invest it, and afterwards, after all those investments, they liquidate all of that capital, or they take the money out and then they spend it. So really, there's no difference with what they're all doing because everyone ends up at zero. Okay, they either save it, or they spend it, maybe they give it away, but you're either doing one of the two. Many people don't look into and realize the power of compounding. The power of compounding had such a significant impact on my life when I was young. But in order for y'all to really grasp what I'm saying and to understand fully what I'm sharing with you, I gotta tell you a little bit about my story, okay? Now, I grew up with a very large family in the most impoverished neighborhoods in Toronto. I remember when there was 4 of us, 5 of us, 9 of us, 11 of us, okay? And when you're living in that type of poverty, it does make certain things very difficult. And for me, I started having a financial awakening when I was a teenager, when everything shifted, okay? There was this girl that I was just head over heels for, so in love with, but I couldn't impress her because instead of having Jordans, I had Shaqs, okay? Instead of having, at the time, BlackBerry was a huge phone. If you didn't have a BlackBerry, you were nobody, okay? Instead of a BlackBerry, I had a Sony Ericsson. And the crazy thing is, when I finally got the BlackBerry and I was like, yes, I'm finally have the thing that everyone has and I can talk to girls on BBM, it switched to iPhone, yeah. And it took me forever to finally get an iPhone, and crazy, just running around trying to do things to impress a girl that I really liked. But because I was trying to impress her, I learned something. I realized that I needed some money, okay? And I wanted to be rich. My financial beginning started with me wanting to impress a girl and wanting to be rich to impress her. So what did I do? I went to my grandmother. And I sat with my grandmother and I told her, Grandma, you are one of the only people in my life that I see is living a successful life, okay? I'm living in poverty, over here sleeping on the floor, and you have a wonderful house, wonderful car, etc., etc. How can I set up my life so in the future I don't make the same mistakes that other of my family members made, and I could be more like you? And she told me, you need to sit down with Paul. Now, Paul was my grandmother's investor for the better part of 30 years, okay? Paul helped my grandma get the house that she wanted, get the cars that she wanted, take the vacations that she wanted. Whatever it is that she wanted to do, she worked with Paul because Paul knew how to make her money work harder than she did. 14-year-old Tiny Ty sat down with Paul and started to learn, okay? And what Paul did a few things. Like, first we set up a mutual fund. So I set up a mutual fund and Paul instructed me, hey, $25 every month is gonna go into this fund, okay? This is gonna start building your future. And at the time, I think I was 15 at this point, $25 a month was huge. I didn't even have a job yet, and I didn't know where I was gonna get the money from. $25 a month, when people are working for $9 an hour, felt like a daunting task to make sure I had every single month. But I figured it out, and I made it work. And then Paul told me after we finished getting all the mutual funds set up, he said, hey, you wanna be rich? You're gonna have to do things a little differently than most people. In fact, here's my Audible account, and I want you to get a few books. Now, this is back when Audible would allow you to download whatever, and you can actually keep the titles. Okay, not like now where you have to sign in and use credits, and you don't technically have the books, you just have access to it as long as you have internet access. But back in that time, you could download whatever you wanted. So he said you have 24 hours. You have 24 hours to get as many books as you can, okay? But first, get these 5 books. Okay? And the 5 books that Paul told me to get were As a Man Thinketh, okay? The Magic of Thinking Big, all right? Think and Grow Rich, The Richest Man in Babylon, and finally, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Okay, he said you have 24 hours to get as many books as you can. I'm going to change my password, but I want you to start by getting those 5 books that I listed for you. And I did. And I didn't know it at the time, but those 5 books were the beginning of my financial journey. They were the true beginning. The mutual funds were great, but those 5 books shifted my mindset to really understand finances. They taught me that a percentage of everything that I make belongs to me. No matter what happens, no matter what other things I have to take care of, those belong to me, all right? And that percentage was 10% as a minimum. We want to increase that percentage, but to start, 10% belongs to me and future me to make sure he's taken care of in the future, okay? I went through so many different financial challenges. I was working a minimum wage job and trying to save, and I hated my job. And then crisis struck, okay? Now I had a wonderful little Jack Russell named Precious. She was a rescue. But she liked to take herself on walks sometimes. And one of these days that she decided to take herself on a walk, she got hit by a car. I can remember the phone call that I got. I was about to step into an exam. I was at the door, about to open the door, and I got a phone call, and I take the call real quick. And someone's freaking out on the line. Oh my God, are you the owner of such and such dog? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, your dog is bleeding, it's hit by a car. And my whole world just fell out from under me, and I was freaking out. And I called Paul. I'm like, Paul, I need to take out my money. My dog got hit by a car. I need to take her to the vet. And Paul's, no. And I'm like, Paul, but my dog is gonna die. I gotta figure this out. And he's like, figure it out, but you're not allowed to touch this money. And so I take my dog to the vet. I end up racking up a huge bill at the vet, but luckily they let me do a payment plan, so I paid it off over time, and I didn't touch my money. Okay. Now, I had $5,000 accumulated in this account, and it took me about 3 to 4 years to put away that much money. And it wasn't even that I put away that much money. I was already tapping into the compounding interest. So I didn't put away $5,000, but at this point I had $5,000, right? And then across the next few years, I really watched the compounding effect, because I watched my money go from 5,000 to 10,000. Then I watched it go from 10,000 to 20,000. And I was still putting little bits here and there, but I wasn't putting that much in that I should have $20,000. Okay? I probably only put in 5,000 total of my own cash, and the rest was compounding. All right? Now, I started to get addicted to seeing these numbers grow. Started getting addicted to watching my money compound. It was so nice to think no matter what I did, no matter where I was, my money was working, whether I was awake or asleep. It was still working and making more money, and I was always checking the account every month, like, oh my gosh, there's more, I'm excited, you know? I started finding other ways to save money. Like, I don't spend $5 bills. If I go somewhere and I get change, I don't spend $5 bills. I take that 5, I throw it into my compounding. Any dollar I get, 10% automatically gets transferred out to another account and goes into my investments. And if I loan you $10 and you give me back that $10, 10% of that money that has come back to me goes into that compounding savings account, investment account. Like I got so addicted to finding new ways to put away more money in ways that I won't notice it. And then COVID struck. The lockdowns happened. And I had just quit my job and opened up my gym. One of the only things that was severely affected by COVID lockdowns. I picked the perfect industry to be in, and I picked the perfect type of thing to open up. I just spent a bunch of money getting my gym started. I just got a bunch of clients, and then disaster struck and we had to shut down. And I was trying to figure out how to make things work, and I made a lot of stuff work for a while, but eventually I had no money left. And I was faced with a decision. Do I struggle and lose my house that I'm living in, as well as the gym that I'm already losing? Or do I take some money out of my investments? And I battled with this 4 months. I let them take my car. Like they took my car and a bunch of other stuff. I just maintained my living. And I was like, no, I can't take my money out. And so what I tried to do, I tried to go to the bank and leverage my mutual funds. I said, hey bank, I have $20,000 sitting in this account. Over 20,000 at that point. I think it was like sitting at 24 or something. I have $24,000 sitting in this account. I wanted to keep on compounding because it's doing well. Can I get a loan? And can I give you this as collateral? Can I give you this mutual fund, transfer it over to y'all's, let it gain the 14% interest that it's getting right now, and can you give me a more favorable loan? Can I get a 2, 5, even 6% loan? And the bank told me no. The bank said no. In order to get money from us, what you're gonna have to do, especially during these COVID times, what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to liquidate all of those investments. Then you give us the $20,000. We'll hold on to it. We're gonna give you a 2% interest rate. And we can give you a loan for whatever number you need at 7%. Now, to take out my money, that's getting 14% growth. To give it to you, to get 2%, I'm losing 12% there. And then to get a loan from you on using that money as collateral, I'm gonna get 7% that I have to pay you back. That doesn't make any sense. That does not make any sense at all. It makes more sense for me to just spend the money. And so I did. And I liquidated everything. And it hurt me so much to liquidate everything. It was so heartbreaking to liquidate everything that I worked so hard for. I was on track to watching my money grow to $40,000 without putting much more in at all. And if I put more in it, I was on track to seeing it grow so much. And I was heartbroken. And I was looking for a solution. I kept looking for a solution until I finally found one. And I stumbled across something called infinite banking. Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. And I learned that I could find favorable rates on my own terms, and that I could start a system to put my money to work for me. But that's it for part 1, okay? That's just a little bit of the backstory. And I'm gonna introduce y'all to the Money at Work system, but that's at least how I found it and how I started to learn it. And in the next segment, we'll go a little bit deeper. But I hope y'all enjoyed this episode of the MITM podcast, well, part 1 of the Money at Work system. If you love it, share it with someone that you love. Hit that subscribe button either down below if you're watching the video, or make sure you share it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast or check it out. Make sure you share this, all right? And let me know if you want to hear part 2 about the Money at Work system. With that being said, stay wise, make your money work for you, and remember to pay yourself first. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.